Hi, and welcome to the Residential Application Training and Sales Guide for NaturalSof Water Treatment and Filtration. We've got a lot to cover. I'm going to go rather quickly, but don't worry because PDF versions of this presentation along with sales materials will support everything we go over today. Here's just a list of our agenda, and let's get started. First, a note about problem solving. The most successful companies that we partner with are staffed with problem solvers. Let's put this another way. People don't like to be sold, but everybody likes to buy, and everybody likes to have their problem solved. So the primary water quality problem we're solving here is the elimination of calcium limescale in hard water areas. This presentation assumes that you have some background with water treatment, or you're able to ask questions and research and find out how calcium limescale forms. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a picture of a shower head, which was a burnished bronze shower head actually in the southern Utah region, and an actual customer's reaction when they tried NaturalSof products. 3 weeks from the before and after is all it was time that was used there. So by proactively helping customers solve their problems, this is going to lead to more business and better relationships for you within your customers and your company. Now, a little bit of history about NaturalSof and how it works. The parent company, Fluid Dynamics, has been around for over 40 years and has been installing the NaturalSof product lines in over 40 countries with over 1 million installations. Still manufactured in the UK, we've been installing NaturalSof in the United States for about 8 years as of 2018 at the time of this recording. Essentially, NaturalSof is a catalytic converter for calcium in hard water. I often use the example about catalytic converters in an automobile because many people are familiar with it. The catalytic converter in an automobile just converts harmful contaminants off the back of the engine into less harmful contaminants for the airborne environment. Similarly, we are converting the calcium in hard water to a non-binding format. We do this by way of a non-sacrificial lead-free alloy core, and the shape and surface create the catalytic reaction at the right flow rate. We're converting this calcium into a microscopic form known as aragonite instead of letting it form as calcite as would naturally happen with lime scaling. Now there's no need to filter this out, and we'll go into more detail. What we're doing is preventing scale deposition, and in many cases, like in the picture you saw in the previous slide, existing scale is just washed away over time. How much time depends on how much scale is there, how much treated water can get to the area. At the bottom you see some pictures with a cross-section of what's inside the catalytic core and an actual NaturalSof product known as our NS1. How do we compare? Well, here's a chart that's actually in some of our sales brochures and literature that compares our NaturalSof catalytic converter to other treatment methods. You might be familiar with these. Most often used is a salt-based softener, and they've been around for quite a long time. With a salt-based softener, you're actually pulling the minerals out of the water, and that's the way that they're going to eliminate scaling or try to eliminate it with proper treatment and maintenance. Reverse osmosis, on the other hand, takes out almost all things from water. So all minerals and contaminants are removed, and not only is it very maintenance intensive, but you also have to balance the water pH to make sure you don't end up with acidic water. Closest on this table would be magnetic electronic devices, and what they're trying to do is get at the calcium in a different way, like we are with our catalytic process, but you can see some of the benefits that we have over any and all of the other treatment methods that are in the marketplace. The nicest thing here is that there's no maintenance and no other electronic components that can actually fail. That's some of the biggest benefits that you could point to your customers when you're talking to them about the NaturalSof products. Now let's go over what we are not. As mentioned in the previous slide, we're not a water softener, so we don't soften water. The phrases like non-salt softening or salt-free softening can be deceptive, and we don't use either of those in our marketing. We tend to refer to what we're doing as water conditioning. We don't add anything into the water, or do we take anything out of the water as a result of our treatment. So that's what we do not do. Here's something that really sets us apart. In the industry, we're not aware of anybody else that offers a 1-year money-back guarantee on product cost. This is based on satisfaction. And we see great results in the marketplace because we have less than a 3% return rate. And when this happens, as we'll talk about later on, it's typically because the product has been sized incorrectly. Remember, size is important when we're talking about NaturalSof. Let's talk about the sizing and number of units. Here's some guidance. A home with 3.5 bathrooms or less will always use an NS1. A home with 4 bathrooms or more and 5 people or more may use an NS6. Never oversize. You want to ask the customer about any high flow fixtures they have and use, like multi-head showers or Roman tubs. I say frequently about Roman tubs because many times people have these large fillable tubs, but they don't use them frequently, and so they don't really have a lot of water running across the main from a big wide open faucet. What we find on average is that 98% of city supplied homes will use a single NS1, and they're rarely breaking an average of 4 gallons per minute inside the home at any one time. That takes into account fixtures and faucets that are running at the same time, because even though you may have many bathrooms, so somebody may have 6 bathrooms in a house, but if there's only 2 people living there and they rarely have anybody else over, chances are they're running at less than 4 gallons per minute inside the home. Now, if there is a full-time hot water recirculation loop, you're going to want to add an NSO5, which is the 3/8 inch unit, to that loop. What that does is retreat that water as it gets heated and cooled through the system and prevents any degradation of treatment, keeps everything nice and clean. So here's some things to look for and gauge customer interest when you're out there solving problems for them. You want to notice the signs of hard water and scale in the home. So you're looking at their faucets and fixtures, appliances, and especially if you're there to replace a water heater, it's a perfect time to introduce the idea and concept of protecting their investment. Also, when it comes to water quality, notice if there's cases or bottles of water, a cooler, something that tells you they're concerned about their water quality when it comes to a healthy standard. And also ask about their concerns when it comes to water quality in the shower and also the maintenance cycle in their home. For instance, if you see a water softener in the house, it's a great idea to ask them how they maintain that and if they're happy with it or if they're looking for other alternatives. Now let's talk about some of the combination units available from NaturalSof for treatment and filtration. In the top left, the NaturalSof NS1 is by itself, and if your customer just wants to solve the problem of hard water and calcium lime scale, then that's all they may need. In the bottom right, you'll see the NaturalSof BB, standing for Big Blue. It's your standard 4.5 by 20 inch canister with a Pentec Chlor Plus cartridge filter in there. It's a carbon block filter wrapped around the NaturalSof unit built directly into the head. This gives you the all-in-one capability of filtering and treating the water. Now with that model and option, there's going to be filter changes required once or twice a year, just based on water quality and volume. Then finally on this page, on the left side, you'll see the 6L. The 6L stands for the 6 layers of different media that are in there, including 2 different kinds of carbon to get at chlorine, ammonia, and we also try to get the chloramines, some other chemicals and disinfectant byproducts out of the water. Typically, we want to use the words remove or reduce. We can never say 100%. Now, both of these units, if you note, are standards for primarily city water. NaturalSof does have solutions for well water filtration, but scale prevention remains the same in both types of water, and we'll talk a little bit more about wells here in just a minute. What's the difference between city and well water? Well, there's a lot of words on this slide, but in summary, the city water is monitored by both the treatment facility and the EPA. So most of the common complaints that people would have regarding that would be taste and odor associated with chlorine, chloramine, and maybe some sediment. Now again, NaturalSof catalytic treatment is most often effective in city water in the high 95% plus of the time. Some treatment plants actually introduce coating agents into their water, which can impact treatment, but this is a rare occasion. Now, well water content needs to be reviewed with the customer since it's not regulated by a treatment facility. Many times, issues such as iron may be visible from stains in the home, and that would be an indication that further testing should be done to determine the levels of iron so as not to foul out either filtration or the NaturalSof product. Take a note here, if you or your customer are not familiar with the area and the content that's in the wells, it's a really good idea to work with them to get some comprehensive testing done. Now what I've done is placed a link down the bottom here. It's pretty simple to remember, but National Testing Laboratories and watercheck.com is a fantastic resource. You get the most bang for the buck because they will have several different tests for both well and or city water if your customer really wants to do it to find out exactly what's in their water. And the average cost for that with the overnight shipping that needs to be done for a well is around $250. I personally recommend anybody with a private well do that once every 5 years just to check out the contents of their water and make sure nothing's changed. Here's some installation configurations. Note again that if there's a full-time hot water recirculation loop, you're going to add an NSO5, which is the 3/8 inch unit, into that recirculation loop. On the left-hand side, you see the NaturalSof by itself. So you want to get onto the water main. It's a good idea to have a shutoff on both sides if you can do it. And not shown here, but if there is a pressure regulator valve, you can get in ahead of that if there's room. On the right-hand side, we've got the NS6, and it's in a well application. The difference here is the size and flow rates, which we'll go over more later. But here we're putting the NS6 between the well pump and the pressure tank. So we're actually running off the flow rate of the well pump rather than the internal usage of water in the home. So flow can be higher. Now note that NaturalSof can also be installed after the check valve and pressure tank if there's no room or if for any reason you don't know the flow of the water. In those cases you would usually use an NS1. But again, it's all based on how many people in the house, how many fixtures, and how much water usage. Let's talk about some frequently asked questions. This image on the right is directly from our brochure, so you can see there's many questions and answers to go over with the customer when you're talking to them. We're going to talk about these three that are highlighted here in yellow. First, where's the best installation point if treating a whole house? We recommend on the main cold water supply line and before a PRV if applicable. You can protect the PRV as well from calcium limescale. And it is safe and optional to treat the water that's used for irrigation, hose bibs, anything outside the house. Since we're not adding anything to the water like a water softener, there's no concern about sodium doing any damage to outside plants. In fact, many of our customers find that treating the irrigation is helpful because nozzles don't get clogged up. Any stains that were occurring on outside landscape actually get washed away by our treated water. Second, how long will it take before a difference is noticed following installation? Well, this depends entirely on the frequency of use and how much limescale is already there. If there's significant scale there, it could take several months. In many cases, just a few weeks. You might remember this picture. That shower head before and after picture was actually 3 weeks time in between, and the customer sent that to us unsolicited, and he did not do anything like use CLR or vinegar to clean it up. That was just what was happening after 3 weeks. Also of note when we talk about this is what we call washout of existing scale. So if somebody's been under-treating or not treating a house in a hard water area for a long period of time, there can be existing calcium built up inside the water heater or inside the plumbing system. This can wash out and actually give a false impression that treatment's not working. Most commonly you'll find this in a dishwasher because that's where all the hot water's coming, and if they have a tank style heater, it's coming from there. No worries, that means the unit's actually doing what it's supposed to, and you can just help the customer flush that water heater out or tell them it's just going to take a little bit of time and it'll clear up. So what happens to the treated calcium carbonate? Many times people, after we tell them we precipitate the calcium carbonate as crystals, they then ask, well, do I have to filter that out? The answer is no. It's microscopic and it's actually beneficial to leave that in the water. They just travel through the system and go out the drain, down the drain, or are consumed and actually absorbed more readily than calcium that's left untreated when we actually drink the water. Now here's some common objections that we hear. The price is too high. Well, when you compare our solution with the expense of water softeners, for example, the total cost of ownership of NaturalSof is actually lower, and return on investment is typically between 6 to 18 months versus a standard water softener. Now, if considering a combination unit or even the NaturalSof unit itself, you can offer the customer a financing program with low monthly payments. If your company doesn't do that on its own internally, there are companies that work specifically with water treatment to help offer that financing to your customers. Now, what if it doesn't work? People are concerned about what if they're not happy or what if it doesn't work for them? Well, we have a solution for that. That's our unmatched 1-year money-back satisfaction guarantee on the product cost. We try to handle that objection right up front with the guarantee. And here's one that we've already touched on. Well, I or members of my home like the slippery feel of soft water. Solution for that? Just consider adding the NaturalSof before the softener, make it more productive, regenerate less, and use less water and salt. Well, we covered a lot on our agenda in a short amount of time. Remember some of the key points that we talked a lot about solving problems, and the successful partners that work with us are problem solvers. We went over a little bit of history. We talked in some good deal about sizing and the importance of sizing. Talked a little bit about our filter combination units, as well as going over some frequently asked questions and common objections. So what should you do next? We'll go ahead and review the materials that were provided when you got this training link. Also any of our sales and promotional brochures. Ask NaturalSof any follow-up questions you have. Email us at info@naturalsof.com or call that toll-free number and ask for your area representative based on where you're located. And then start helping your customers solve their water problems by partnering with NaturalSof. Thanks for your attention, and we look forward to working with you.